I want to just draw a distinction. You've got, I think, Huckabee Sanders saying we don't want the government to pay for junk food, right? That's different than saying nobody can eat junk food.
Welcome to the Doge and Maha News Channel. In today's video, we're going to focus on making America healthy again. And in fact, we're going to watch and react to a video on Fox News with celebrity chef and restaurant owner Andrew Gruel. And they're going to talk about things like, should food stamps be used to buy junk food? Why is red dye banned in makeup but not in our food? His thoughts on ultra-processed foods. Should they be banned or not? And the impact of weight loss chemicals and drugs on his business as far as what his clients want when they come to his restaurant to eat.
Make America healthy again. The Trump plan to overhaul America's food system is gaining support. The latest, Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, she is now requesting a waiver to prohibit junk food from food stamp programs in her state. Here with us now,
what do you guys think about the government prohibiting food stamps from being used to buy junk food? It's interesting that Sarah Huckabee Sanders is calling for that to be implemented in her state. I'm curious, actually, it'd be kind of nice to see if one state did this and what the results were, to kind of use this as a testing ground, I guess. So I think it's a good idea. What do you guys think? Put your thoughts in the comments below.
Celebrity chef and restaurant owner Andrew Gruel, always great to have you. Typically to me this would say no-brainer, but you also don't like bans. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I don't like bans because I think that's a slippery slope. It depends on who's in charge, right? You ban something when one party's in charge and then the other party does a double ban, right? Like it just becomes this game of kind of cat and mouse.
He's got a good point there. So maybe bans isn't the correct thing to do, but actually banning our government money to be used for junk food, for buying junk food, is I think that's fair to do. Banning junk food itself, I disagree with. Let the market determine what they want to buy. That's fine. Have the option of Oreos with the chemicals in them and Oreos without the chemicals in them, like the ingredients that they use to make Oreos for other markets like Canada and Europe. You know, go ahead and have that as an option, and then also have the U.S. version full of chemicals as an option, and let the market determine which one they want to buy. But as far as allowing food stamps to be used to buy junk food, I kind of disagree with that, because that is government money.
I think when it comes to poisons in the food system, or when we get into pharmaceuticals, that I can understand, but there needs to be studies behind it. When it comes to food items, I think it's about promoting the better products, right, versus demarketing one product. But none of that should be within the purview of the federal government. Like that's the grander point.
Okay, but just quickly, so we were talking to Dr. Mark Siegel yesterday, and a type of red dye has been banned in cosmetics. So I can't put it on my skin since the 90s, but I can put it in my food and eat it. Is that not a place for the government to step in and say that is also not allowed?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Did you know that? I wasn't aware of that. That red dye is banned from cosmetics, so you can't put it on your skin. But red dye is in all sorts of foods, like Fruit Loops, for example. Anything that has a red color in it is probably going to have some kind of red dye. But so it's been banned from cosmetics for your skin, but it's okay to eat it. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think that one you can get more into like the medical, right? You can look at a history and directly correlate the red dyes and all the dyes and ban it, but then offer an alternative, right? Like that's the key. We always haven't had red dyes in our food system, or any of these chemicals for that matter. And the government should not be acting as police people. They should be consultants to say, look, you might have we banned the red dye, but here's beet, right? Like here's a much better organic, natural product that we can now work into the food system.
Interesting.
Yeah, for example, Canada bans red dye, so their Fruit Loops don't have red dye. They are colored red with beet, and that's exactly what he said there. So why can't the market in the U.S., or why can't the manufacturers in the U.S. color the food with beet instead of coloring it with red dye, right? I mean, they're already making this food for the Canada market, for the Europe market. Why not make the same food for the U.S. market and get rid of the U.S. Product that is just full of chemicals? Get rid of it. Ban those chemicals.
I want to just draw a distinction. You've got, I think, Huckabee Sanders saying we don't want the government to pay for junk food, right? That's different than saying nobody can eat junk food.
Certainly.
Right? And like as a sort of my libertarian leadings, I'd say, yeah, actually, I don't want my tax dollars funding junk food either.
Right.
But I'm okay if somebody wants to make a choice.
I can have my Diet Coke.
You can have your diet. Like, I'm not going to ban your Diet Coke.
Okay, good.
But I'm just not going to have the government pay for somebody to get addicted to. I think there's a difference there, Andrew.
Well, it is. It's the same as the drug debate, especially from the libertarian perspective. It's like, people can make their own personal choices within the four walls of their house or beyond, right? As long as it doesn't affect somebody else's liberty. But when it comes to food, it's the same thing. It's kind of a drug. A lot of the foods that we're talking about, these are drugs. They're addictive, the seed oils, the sugars. And then when you look at following the money behind the, quote, drug, it's a lot of the government subsidies. And in some cases, people say, oh, well, there's no government subsidies for sugar. Well, no, they protect the industry by disallowing any other international products from coming in. So they're putting up enough protections there for sugar.
Point.
I know in your restaurants and for your private clients, you're always using the best, highest quality, freshest ingredients. So I want to know what you think about this conversation around ultra-processed foods, because recently there's been a panel of, they always say experts, that are saying there's not enough evidence to recommend avoiding ultra-processed foods. So they're saying, yeah, we've got ultra-processed foods, but they're, we don't really know if you should avoid them or not. It kind of seems like, don't we know, don't eat that stuff?
Yeah, right now I feel like I'm living in a twilight zone when I hear something like that. Everybody knows that, right? It's Occam's razor. I mean, it's like the most simplest principles is that look at the way you feel when you eat processed food. You feel like junk. But like you said, it's an indulgent, right? We shouldn't perhaps ban that, but we know that processed food is bad for us, right? Like everyone knows that, junk food.
Yeah, he's got a great point there. I mean, how do you feel after eating a bunch of junk food versus how do you feel after eating a bunch of really good organic food, right? I mean, there's a big difference. I know I can feel it in my body. I'm sure you can as well. And it's also interesting that, here in the U.S., we are allowed to use these, 10,000 chemicals in our foods, where all but 400 of those chemicals are banned in other countries in Europe and Canada and other countries. So why are these chemicals allowed to be used in our food? Why do we have to prove that these chemicals will do damage to us? Why do we have to prove that? It seems like these chemical manufacturers, these food manufacturers would have to prove that they don't harm us before they put it in our food. But instead, they don't have to do that. They can just say it doesn't do us any harm, and it's okay. And that's just wrong. That is just wrong.
We've been talking a lot about weight loss drugs on this program, and I'm curious about the way it's changing your consumers' habits. Anecdotally, we hear people crave salads and they hate hamburgers. Are you seeing that? And how does that impact your business?
That is really interesting. So thank you for bringing that up, because we do have a lot of guests that we talk to who are on the weight loss drugs. And I'm obviously, I'm not going to name any names here, but they have changed the way in which they eat at the restaurant, eating a lot less. Also, not drinking as much. I think that one's interesting, just by virtue of the fact that when you drink, you eat more, you drink, and they just don't do it anymore. But we put a lighter section on our menu for smaller meals, because they started asking for the kids' food, right? They're like, oh, can I just have a kids' food portion?
Like a half-side salad instead of the full salad.
Exactly.
But I've seen pictures of your food, man. I mean, the stuff that really gets me is like those burgers that are stacked.
That's because you're not on the weight loss
5 inches high. But I mean, we're not going to lose those. You're not going to quit that stuff.
No, that's the bait, right? I throw that out there, I reel you in, and then here, have a small salad.
On that. I am reeled in on that one.
But that is a true economic business impact that you are actually now seeing from these weight loss drugs.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's really interesting that the weight loss drugs, of course, they're part of what they do is they take away your desire to eat more food. So people are eating less food, obviously. So when they go to a restaurant, they don't want the big portion anymore. Instead, they want the tiny little portion. The pharmaceutical companies that are producing these weight loss drugs, you have to stay on them. And once you go off, you're going to balloon right back up. So basically, it's a drug that you have to stay on for the rest of your life. So essentially, you have the food companies that are putting a bunch of chemicals in our food and making us sick and fat. And then you have the pharma companies saying, oh, hey, here's a drug for that. It's going to make you eat less. But you have to stay on it for your entire life. Otherwise, you're going to balloon back up again. So it's definitely this big cycle of just profit for both the food company and the pharma companies.
Curious about the pricing, though. Do you get the kid-size pricing with the smaller portion, too?
Yeah, well, it's an in-between, right?
I have to ask that. We're on a business
once again,
show.
it's based on demand. What I saw was they want a smaller portion, so I created something in between, right? In between our kids and our regular portions, and now it's kind of in that like $12 price range.
Excellent.
Andrew, well, we love having you on the program. Thank
Thanks
you
for having
so
me.
much.
Coming on.
Well, what do you guys think? Should we allow food stamps to be used for junk food? Should we just let them buy whatever they want to with the government subsidies that they're getting? I'm curious to know what you think. You know what I think. Also, what do you think about chemicals in our food? Like, for example, red dye. Red dye has been proven to have all sorts of adverse health effects, and yet it is still allowed to be in our food. So should that be banned or not banned? Should the food companies be required to prove that the chemicals that they put in our food are not going to harm us? Or can they just go ahead and put it in there, and then later on we have to prove that they do harm us in order to remove them from our food? What do you guys think? Should we ban the chemicals from the food just like other countries have done, or not? So I'm really interested in following this Make America Healthy Again agenda. I'm really learning a lot as I'm watching all these videos, and I hope you are too. If this is something that interests you, make sure you follow along. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and put a playlist right up here, and that has all of my Maha videos in it. So go ahead and check those out. I think you're really going to like them. So I appreciate you watching the Doge and Maha News channel, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks a lot. Take care.